Okay, let's offer some prayers to Srila Prabhupada. Before we begin, after all, we are reading Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. So, Nama Om Vishnu Budhaya, Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale, Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin, Iti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaulavani Pachaline, Devasisha Sunyavhari, Pashtatari Satarine, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Let's share the Bhagavad Gita. I have it here. Again, there's something's gone wrong with the font on the Sanskrit here, so please forgive that. I'll try and sort that out before tomorrow. I'm not sure what's happened, but we're not reading directly the Sanskrit anyway, so just as well. So we're reading the transliteration of the Sanskrit and then the translation. So we're on chapter 5, as we mentioned. So this is action in Krishna consciousness. And it begins actually with a question from Arjuna. It's a similar question that Arjuna asked at the end of the 3rd chapter, which is entitled Karma Yoga, unless I'm mistaken. Yeah. So here, Arjuna's become confused, and Prabhupada will highlight this in the purple when we read it, but just get an idea where we're going. Krishna's been speaking to Arjuna about the principle of renunciation through knowledge. And also, Krishna has been given examples of the sword, although it's a metaphorical example that Krishna has given Arjuna, that should want to cut through the binding knot of karma with the sword of knowledge. So, for all intents and purposes, Krishna seems to be speaking to Arjuna about the principle of non-work. And it's interesting because I was just looking, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, no, actually, Baladev Vijayabhushana, he entitles this chapter Karma Sannyas Yoga. So these two words are contradictions from one perspective, because karma means action. Yeah. And sannyas means renunciation or non-action. So they both seem contradictory in terms. And especially up to this point, at least from Arjuna's perspective, Krishna seems to be speaking of both things. And he wants to know, what is the best, one or the other? Should I work and do my duty, or should I renounce? But as you know, Krishna wants him to do both. So, and Krishna has Krishna would explain more, yeah, because it's not clear for Arjuna. So Arjuna is good. I think we mentioned this last week. This is the role of the teacher, and the role of the student is to take doubts or confusions to the teacher. So he's doing that, and he's asking for clarification. So you could say, from a worldly sense, what's the best thing to do? Should I give up my job, sell my place, and live in Vrindavan and
Hello,
renounce?
hello.
Hello. Should I renounce this world? Shall I sell up whatever I have and buy a little hut somewhere or whatever? Or should I work in the world, knowing that the Lord is happy when one does one's duties? Yeah, so what's the best? Yeah. And would we have example for example, we have Arjuna as an example, where, as we know, Krishna's going to encourage him to do his duty in a spirit of renunciation, with the fruits dedicated for Krishna's pleasure. And that is actually a sannyasi. So he asks him to work, to not discontinue his duty. But in another circumstances, like, for instance, Maharaj Parikshit, those who've read Srimad Bhagavatam or heard of the wonderful story of the Bhagavatam, it's based on a conversation between Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadev Goswami. So Maharaj Parikshit, for example, he was cursed and had 7 days to live. So he did renounce the world. He cut off everything and went to the bank of the Ganges. So in that circumstance, his duty was to engage in renunciation in the full sense of the term. So this is the introduction. This is where we're going now. Krishna is going to clarify that for Arjuna and for us also. Okay, what's the best thing for us to do? Okay, Hare Krishna. All right, any initial questions on that? Otherwise, we can jump in and we can start reading. So if anyone would like to read the first verse, do I have any announcements to make before we begin? No, I'll just welcome, if anyone's here for the first time, I'm just scrolling down the names. I don't think so. There's there are 4 people who registered, and I gave them confirmation back, but I think we've got our core team, our core group is here. So, welcome everyone. Hare Krishna. So, Mother Lavanga Latika has a reading hand raised. So please, again, any questions, any confusions, any realizations, please feel free to share. Hare Krishna. Okay, Mother Lavanga Latika, over to you. Chapter 5, text.
It's text 1, chapter 5?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Arjuna Sanyasam Kamanam Krishna Purnayogam Cha Samsasi Yakjaya Eteorekam Tanme Ahisu Nichitam. Arjuna said, O Krishna, first of all you ask me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the 2 is more beneficial? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that work in devotional service is better than dry mental speculation. Devotional service is easier than the latter because, being transcendental in nature, it frees one from reaction. In the 2nd chapter, preliminary knowledge of the soul and its entanglement in the material body were explained. How to get out of this material entanglement by Buddha Yoga or devotional service was also explained therein. In the 3rd chapter, it was explained that a person who is situated on the platform of knowledge no longer has any duties to perform. And in the 4th chapter, the Lord told Arjuna that all kinds of sacrificial work culminate in knowledge. However, at the end of the 4th chapter, the Lord advised Arjuna to wake up and fight, being situated in perfect knowledge. Therefore, by simultaneously stressing the importance of both work in devotion and inaction in knowledge, Krishna has perplexed Arjuna and confused his determination. Arjuna understands that renunciation knowledge involves cessation of all kinds of work performed as sense activities. But if one performs work in devotional service, then how is work stopped? In other words, he thinks that sannyas or renunciation in knowledge should be altogether free from all kinds of activity, because work and renunciation appear to him to be incompatible. He appears not to have understood that work in full knowledge is non-reactive and is therefore the same as inaction. He inquires, therefore, whether he should cease work altogether or work with full knowledge.
Okay, so here's Arjuna's confusion. Any questions or clarifications? I hope we all know where we are and where we're going here in this very sacred conversation. So Arjuna's conception is sannyas means, or because he's seen, obviously, from a cultural perspective, he is familiar with persons who renounce the world. Yeah, they leave their duties and they renounce the world. He's familiar with the order of sannyas, and generally they do that to become free of karma. They disentangle themselves. Yeah. And even at the after the Battle of Kurukshetra, Yudhisthira Maharaj had a similar um, existential crisis as Arjuna and wanted to not become king and was preaching the glories of renunciation in the full sense of the term. But he was, as we know, in the end he did his duty. So this is Arjuna's confused. Yeah. So he's asking, is it binary? Is it one or the other? You know, binary means either this way or that way. But Krishna's
So
can
he's
explain
talking
it's
about
both.
karma sannyas and karma yoga, Prabhu? Both.
Yeah, well, that's the title that Baladev Vidyabhushana gives this chapter, Karma Sannyas Yoga. So the two terms are, from one perspective, two different paths, but actually Krishna's going to show it's the same path. And in the verses we read that some people say they're different. Actually, someone in knowledge should know that they're both the same. Yeah, it's interesting and interesting. Yeah, karma sannyas yoga. Krishna, Prabhupada calls it karma yoga.
Performing activity in karma yoga is better than karma sannyas, because this is karma sannyas for knowledge, isn't it, Prabhu? No, I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been reading a little bit on this chapter. Yeah, karma sannyas is a particular type of sannyas where you give up, as far as I understand, you give up activity.
Yeah.
You renounce karma. But this is the whole theme of Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna, he becomes very active with great enthusiasm. He takes up his bow and he's really inspired. He's really inspired, and he works and fights very diligently. And that brings up another point, that often when persons are they're first discovering the glory of Krishna consciousness, then sometimes it can they lose their determination in the work ethic. You know, they no longer are infused to make it to the top of the pile in the office, you know, or to really something pull their weight. So often that's often a misunderstanding. The same misunderstanding that Arjuna is having. But better you work, but you become detached from your work, and you give, you know, the fruits of your work. You surrender the fruits, and you do it for Krishna. Therefore, once devotees they become acquainted with that, then they actually not fight up about work as such, but they actually don't shirk their duties, and they work very nicely. But they have the additional opulence of being detached. Even though they're working to the best of their ability, they understand this is for Krishna. It's for Krishna's pleasure. So there's a sense of detachment. Anyway, going off the topic slightly. Is that okay, Nitai Mata? It sounds like you've been reading a little bit.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Sorry.
Yeah. So any other comments or questions here needed for clarification?
Jimmy, I was thinking,
please, yes.
One has to work, but like renouncing the fruit is like you don't be attached to the results of what work you're doing.
Yeah, this is the principle of Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah. So you work because that's your duty to do whatever duty you're meant to be doing. But it, you're renouncing it. It's like you have, you know, you're doing it for Krishna. Like here, Arjuna has been told to fight and he doesn't want to fight. But if he fights for Krishna, he doesn't get any actions,
reactions. Yeah, that's it. This is what, Well done. Very good. This is what we've already learned as well. This has already been mentioned, actually, in the third chapter. Also, it's been hinted at the second chapter, as Prabhupada mentions. But again, as I gave the example in the beginning, there may be some situations where one will stop doing one's worldly duties. Like, for instance, it depends. Like, for instance, I gave up worldly work when I was 24 years old. Yeah, I gave the whole thing up. I threw the towel in and went and joined the temple and became a brahmachari, much to the horror of my mother, father. So that was particularly that. See, but then if there may be someone else who becomes infused about Krishna consciousness, and they got three children and a mortgage to pay. So if they followed that path, it wouldn't be correct. It would be too disturbing to them and also to others. So again, different strokes for different folks, but actually they're both the same path. I hope I'm not confusing anyone.
No, because I was also thinking what you're saying, like you gave up, but you're still working, but you're working. You're preaching. You're not just sitting back and, right, okay, I shall read all day long, I shall chant all day long. But going out there, and like when you're going book distributions, all that is not fun in whatever weather. So you're doing it for Krishna.
Yeah, I was doing it for Krishna. That's right. And I hope you don't mind me sharing personal stories. My father, he used to ask me what time I wake up in the morning, son, at this temple. So I told him 3:30 in the morning. Okay, he said a few swear words. Well, imagine he couldn't believe it. He couldn't understand it. And then he asked me, how much are they paying? How much are they paying you, there, son? I told him I don't get paid. Then a few more swear words came. He couldn't comprehend at all what I was doing. But like Chandravali said, we're active. As you see, the devotees of Krishna, they are active in serving the Lord. Yeah. We're not inactive. All right. Okay. Let's read text 2, shall we? Let's just see if there's any more here. Yeah. Nice introduction. Okay, let's get our doubts cleared as well. Sometimes reading this, as I've been reading Bhagavad Gita for many years, sometimes reading it sometimes it strikes you as, oh, I don't understand, actually. I need to study this a bit more. I was just reading before we began today. I was thinking, wow, what is actually going on here? Anyway, let's read on. So text 2, anyone like to read? You can.
I can do.
Go ahead.
With funny slok. Okay. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishriyasa Karam. Oh, I can't. Ubao. Tayostu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yoga Vishishyate. Translation by Prabhupada. The Personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotion, devotional service is better than renunciation of work. Fruitive activities, seeking self-gratification, are cause for material bondage. As long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the standard of bodily comfort, one is sure to transmigrate to different types of bodies, thereby continuing material bondage perpetually. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.4 to 6 confirms this.
Could just read the translation for your interest. This is the teachings of Lord Rishabdev.
Okay.
To his sons. Very wonderful part of Srimad Bhagavatam. And for your added interest as well, when Prabhupada met the Beatles, and they were speaking about their profession of singing. And Prabhupada spoke about the Sanskrit language in the Bhagavad Gita and the verses of Bhagavatam as being a song. So then they looked a bit confused. So then Prabhupada started singing to George Harrison and John Lennon. And what he was singing was these verses here. Nunam pramata korite vikama yadinduya pitya prinote. He started singing all these verses. But he didn't tell them the translation, because the translation is quite cutting all. Anyway, it's quite, as you read, we will read here. Sorry, I thought I'd give you that little bit of interesting information.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
People are mad after sense gratification, and they do not know that this present body, which is full of miseries, is a result of one's fruitive activities in the past. Although this body is temporary, it is always giving one trouble in many ways. Therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. One is considered to be a failure in life as long as he makes no inquiry about his real identity. As long as he does not know his real identity, he has to work for fruitive results for sense gratification. And as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. Although the mind may be engrossed in fruitive activities and influenced by ignorance, one must develop a love for devotional service to Vasudev. Only then can one have the opportunity to get out of bondage of material existence. Therefore, Gyan, or knowledge that one is not this material body, but spirit soul, is not sufficient for liberation. One has to act in the status of spirit soul. Otherwise, there is no escape from material bondage. Action in Krishna consciousness is not, however, action on the fruitive platform. Activities performed in full knowledge strengthens one's advancement in real knowledge. Without Krishna consciousness, mere renunciation of fruitive activities does not actually purify the heart of a conditioned soul. As long as the heart is not purified, one has to work on the fruitive platform. But action in Krishna consciousness automatically helps one escape the result of fruitive action so that one need not descend to the material platform. Therefore, action in Krishna consciousness is always superior to renunciation, which also entails a risk of falling. Renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete, as is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 12258. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is called incomplete. Renunciation is complete when it is in the knowledge that everything in existence belongs to the Lord, and that no one should claim proprietorship over anything. One should understand that factually nothing belongs to anyone. Then where is the question of renunciation? One who knows that everything is Krishna's property is always situated in renunciation. Since everything belongs to Krishna, everything should be employed in the service of Krishna. That perfect form of action in Krishna consciousness is far better than any amount of artificial renunciation by a sannyasi of the Mayavadi school.
Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna. Let me just gonna peek forward a little bit. A couple of verses. Okay. All right, any questions here? Comments? Well, first of all, Srila Prabhupada is in these verses that he's quoting. So any activity done without the sense of Krishna consciousness, it's a cause of material. Prabhupada says it's a cause of material bondage. And Prabhupada uses this term fruitive activities. It means you're focused on doing something for the self only, and Krishna's not part of the picture. Yeah, so Prabhupada then he quotes these verses here. Nunam pramata kariteva karma. One just increases, one just ensures one's repeated birth and death. So instead, yeah, so here, yeah, also the word part of the verse here, unless one inquires into the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to the miseries arising from ignorance. So we have to engage in activity as we're concluding. Well, we don't have to, but we're encouraged to. But not just that alone, we should be accompanied with the development of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, also Bhagavatam explains that work is Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam. Anyone know what that means? We often say it, Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam. If we're working very hard, we're doing our duties very nicely, but we haven't given some time or we haven't endeavored to understand who we are as soul in relationship to Krishna, but we worked very nicely, then it's considered to be Shama Eva Hi Kevalam. Anyone could translate that? Well, Lavanga's coming in lots of times, joining it. That means simply a waste of time. This is mentioned in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. Yeah, that's why Bhagavad Gita in itself is such an important scripture, such an important sastra, because who can actually renounce? You know, is it practical for everyone to go to the Himalayas? No. Instead, we understand as Prabhupada quotes this verse here, if you can see it on the screen. This is a very important verse here. This speaks about yukta vairagya, real renunciation. Can anyone say what is real renunciation? What am I getting at here?
Is it false renunciation, yukta vairagya?
Yeah, so what's the difference? There's false renunciation and real renunciation.
Say you're living, I don't know how to explain in that way. You're still attached to something, but you're showing that you are kind of renounced. I don't need that, but you still...
Monkey.
Yeah.
Monkey. Yeah, like monkey renunciation. So,
yeah.
Well, basically, if real renunciation is to use the world and the things in this world not for us, but for Krishna.
In Krishna service.
Yeah. That is real renunciation. So the so-called renunciation, Prabhupada says at the end, he says from the artificial renunciation of sannyas by the Mayavad school, because to become part of their school, you have to renounce everything, your family, everything. You have to be a sannyasi. Yeah. Well, Prabhupada calls that, and they're quite, in one sense, quite proud of it. It's quite an achievement, we could say, but it's artificial, and also it's dangerous as well. Why is it dangerous? He mentioned at the beginning, it can be dangerous.
Because within you are still attached to these things.
Yeah, because
externally you are showing you're not, but those desires are going to be, they'll come up and they'll need fulfilling at one point or the other.
Yes. And that's why monkey renunciation, like the monkey is a very good example, actually. The monkeys, they're nonsense animals, get up to all mischief. But they're very renounced, no? They live in the forest, live in a tree.
Monkeys looks like they're renounced, but they are more engaged in sense gratification.
Yeah. They have, I don't think they're married and they have illicit relationship. Yeah, and that's all they do. They jump from one tree to another, wanting to satisfy their senses, they're very restless. So actually it's better that the safe path is the path of of engaging with in the world, but with knowledge that the world is its manifestation of it's coming from Krishna, and I should use the things in this world for Krishna. Yeah, that's safer.
Doesn't Prabhupada say about typewriters and everything that he uses in Krishna's service?
Yeah, plain. Yeah, Prabhupada was criticized by some sadhus also in India because there is verses that sadhus shouldn't cross the ocean. Yeah, yeah. But Prabhupada was acting on a higher principle. No, using and Prabhupada in the very beginning, he was, Prabhupada was very tuned in to this principle of using the items of this world in Krishna's service. Why? Because he was trained by his spiritual master. Yeah? So Prabhupada was, even in the very beginning, he was asking devotees to, actually even himself, he was recording his lectures in the very beginning. Yeah, quite interesting. Actually, my spiritual master mentioned just recently. A lot of devotees. Some persons coming there thought it was a bit strange. He's recording himself. Why is he recording himself? But anyway, without getting distracted. Yes. So also because as we mentioned, it may because the heart may not be ready. Is probably not ready for that level of stark renunciation, and it's not needed. But having said that, we do live in this world. Hopefully, we're following certain virtues and principles. Yeah, it doesn't mean because we're living in a world we are like worldly people. No, Krishna describes we should be like the lotus, which is born of the water, in the water, but doesn't get touched. So we try to move, as though we're in the world, we try to lead a life which is not very complicated. That may not be easy because life is complicated today, but we should try and live it in an uncomplicated way so that we can spend quality time with Krishna, with hearing and chanting about Krishna. So under the name of engaging things in this world, we shouldn't, how you going to say, be a cheater. Oh, I'm doing this because I'm going to get this. I'm going to have, because I'm going to engage it in Krishna's service. I'm going to buy this Rolls Royce car. I'm going to offer it to Krishna. So an interesting example also is like this, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. I think most of you have heard of them. They were very had very opulent positions. Then they renounced and joined Lord Chaitanya. And they coined this phrase, actually, Yukta Vairagya. This is Bhakti Rasmrita Sindhu, Prabhupada is quoting, written by Rupa Goswami. And they understood the principle of engaging things in this world. But because their service was just writing books, so they lived under, so they didn't, because that's all they needed for their service, they led very stark, renounced lives. They didn't live in houses. They lived just in the forest of Vrindavan or little huts because they didn't need it in their service. But, going on a bit here, but we might not be the same as that. We may have family, etc. Anyway, I think we got the main point here. Yeah. Any other questions or comments here? Please.
I think one can renounce things but from within. Like, say if you've got to go to family, okay, you don't make it sound like, oh, I'm Krishna conscious, I can't go to family, I can't do this, I can't do that. You have to perform your duties so you can go there, but be renounced from within. Krishna, I don't want things like this before, but ever again. But do your duty by being show by your actions, what Krishna consciousness is all about.
Yeah. And have faith that Krishna's going to protect you.
Yeah.
Even if seems like you have to engage in some fruitive activities or some worldly dharmic things which may be expected of you from your family. Okay, but do that. But as Mother Chandravali is correctly saying, we do it with a spirit of detachment from it. And Krishna's going to protect us. Yeah. Krishna will protect you.
And in time, Krishna will take you away from that kind of situation. And the way Krishna works it out is like everything would be worked in a better way than you renouncing it when you're not actually renouncing within.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, sometimes we have people want to join the temple because I'm part of the Brahmachari ashram, and they're actually not ready. Actually, they shouldn't be. I had one person. He had 4 children, and he wanted to join the ashram. Young kids he had, trying to persuade him. Anyway, Hare Krishna. All right. Anything else here from anyone out there who we've got? Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, one question on the previous
Dhananjaya.
page.
Hare Which
Krishna.
Previous page? Yes, go on.
Yeah, this one.
Okay, yeah.
Here, the verse about Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu and both sentences like renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete.
Yeah.
And the translation of the verse, both are correct, but I couldn't find if they are completely similar. Over in the first sentence, it is like said, renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete. And in the translation, it is said, renounce things related to Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I couldn't relate these two aspects.
Yeah, I found it hard to grasp your actual question there. Try again. Excuse me.
So sure. So these two statements are right on their own part, but I don't.
Which two statements? You just highlight that here. If you just read it exactly, you're marking it there. You can do that. Okay, that's good. So renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete. Yes. Okay, that's clear. So let's understand what that is first. So renunciation, yeah, because actually with Krishna consciousness, then real renunciation means to engage the things in this world in the Krishna's service. So without that knowledge, so-called renunciation of the world is incomplete. So like that's clear, yeah? So now go on to the second one. Yeah.
So when we renounce things, for example, if someone is selflessly serving the society, but he is not.
Which society? The material society?
Yeah, and
okay.
Society that he is living in. If he is selflessly serving, he or she is selflessly serving the society, but he is not in knowledge of Krishna consciousness, but he is doing it selflessly. So it is one way considered as renounced, but not renounced in Krishna consciousness. So is it like incomplete?
Yeah, because actually the service to, and once Prabhupada actually calls it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he describes all philanthropic work, charitable works where Krishna is not in the picture, is just another phase of sense gratification. Prabhupada described. It's all to do with the material. Okay, it's applaudable from the material platform, but actually because there is no sense of Krishna consciousness, it is not complete. It is not complete.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
It is not complete. From the material perspective, it may seem laudable, and perhaps it is from the material perspective. We need persons to be engaged in charitable works, And that will, because, yeah, anyway, we could go on. But yeah. Okay?
Sure. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, any other questions from anyone out there? You're doing well. 2 verses. Now, Mother Katarina, she's saying, can I ask you a question? It's not related to the topic, but it's something I need guidance on. What should we do? Should we allow Mother Katarina? Okay, I've been tempted.
She has a very good question.
Okay, go ahead, Mother Katarina. We shall try and link it to the topic. Are you out there? No. She must be hanging out the washing. Well, I wanted to ask about Daya. What are the reference to that? And Daya is, what does Daya mean? Just remind me again. Daya? Huh? Mercy. Okay.
Mercy.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you just give us some context, Mother, of the question you're asking? What about Daya? I mean, it means mercy. It means showing mercy towards the inferior. In regards to the means the 4 legs of, in regards to the 4 legs of Dharma.
The bull's legs.
Okay. Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Compassion. So I mean compassion, mercy. Yeah, it should be a principle. It's definitely the principle of a Vaishnava. Yeah, it's a principle, it's the underlying principle of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. It's to give, it's to bless, it's to give mercy. And compassion is actually a divine quality mentioned by Krishna. Yeah. Because for the most part, we're filled up with thoughts of our own world and our own little universe, taking care of ourselves. Yeah. But actually, for someone who's compassionate, they look towards the suffering of others. And if they're really, the real sign is that their heart is affected by the suffering of others and they want to alleviate their suffering. Yeah. So there's the material aspect of that, where someone, as Dhananjaya mentioned, actually, it's linked actually, Dhananjaya mentioned, of doing charitable works. Some people, admittingly, they may do it out of a sense of to get worldly renown, but some people are sincerely care for others. Yeah. But the highest compassion, which is exhibited by the Vaishnavas, is to liberate people from birth and death. So that's the real compassionate work. And that's mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion, actually. Prabhupada speaks of it there, that the devotees of the Lord, they're the real charitable workers. They're given the real charity, which is Krishna consciousness, which everyone needs desperately. Because despite,
Prabhu,
yeah, just finish this thread, because despite what you do for everyone materially, okay, it's applaudable, but still they're going to be in ignorance, they're going to do activities, going to cause bondage, they're going to take birth again, etc. Okay. Yes.
yeah, I was thinking, Prabhu, of mercy, because that's the only leg of the bull is remaining.
No, it's truthfulness is the only one that's mentioned that's remaining.
Yeah, truthfulness is the only one.
And that's shaking.
Mercy.
Just correct.
And also, even the charity workers, sometimes they are very compassionate because they think the best they can do. Because if you have a understanding of birth and death is the real problem, then only you will work towards eliminating that. But the person who doesn't have that understanding, they will think, oh, he doesn't have food, he doesn't have shelter. This is the biggest problem.
Yeah.
So as per your understanding, you will show compassion.
Very good point. It's very clearly explained. Thank you, Nitai Matan. Very, very good. Yeah. So, yeah, so the person who's altruistic philanthropic. Perhaps they're better situated than just a greedy, selfish, materialistic person. But above them is the Vaishnavas, is the devotees of the Lord. And they exhibit the highest manifestation of charity. You give Krishna. I mean, how can you get, if you give Krishna, it's the best thing you can give someone.
Oh, Katrina is right in truthfulness. I think she's right.
Yeah, last remaining leg is truthfulness. Yeah, we mentioned
it. Truthfulness, not mercy.
Yes. Yeah. Okay,
so let's. That means, but then how can we say Mahaprabhu's movement is full of mercy? Not truthfulness. We don't have truthfulness in this world at all.
Well, it's there to some degree. The last remaining leg is truthfulness. Yeah, extensively speaking, from an objective point of view, you can see that the world is lacking in these 4 legs of Dharma. But we are doing our best. We are doing our humble best to educate persons in these 4 legs of Dharma. Yeah. Okay, let's read another verse. I'm tempted. Let's go to text 3. Okay. So any readers out there?
Can I read,
Prabhu?
Well, you both said at once. Yes. Whoever reads first reads. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Shall I read?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Am I in the right verse? Text 3. Is that right? Yes.
Yeah. So, is it Jnana?
Ganeya, yeah. Ganye. Oh. Don't worry too much. Just do your best.
Nitya sanyasi yona dvestina kankasti nirvan dridvandho hi mahabaho sukham bandhat
Pramudjate, yes.
One who is fully, the translation, one who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. O mighty armed Arjuna. Purport. One who is fully in Krishna consciousness is always a renouncer because he feels neither hatred nor desire for the results of his actions. Such a renouncer, dedicated to the transcendental loving service of the Lord, is fully qualified in knowledge because he knows his constitutional position in his relationship with Krishna. He knows fully well that Krishna is the whole and that he is the part and parcel of Krishna. Such knowledge is he is part and parcel of Krishna. Such knowledge is perfect because it is qualitatively and quantitatively correct. The concept of oneness with Krishna is incorrect because the part cannot be equal to the whole. Knowledge that one is one in quality yet different in quantity is correct transcendental knowledge, leading one to become full in himself, having nothing to aspire to or lament over. There is no duality in his mind because whatever he does for Krishna. Being thus freed from the platform of dualities, he is liberated even in this material world.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Nicely read. Thank you. Any curiosities, questions here? This one word is nitya sannyasi. It means always renounced. For 1 minute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, please, Dhananjay.
The phrase "one is one." What does that mean?
Say that again. The phase.
the phrase, this one.
Oh,
One is one.
the phrase. Oh, one is, yeah, the one is, okay, this, the concept of oneness of Krishna, the concept of oneness of Krishna, so that's the Mayavad misconception, that there's no difference between the soul and the jiva. The concept of oneness with Krishna is incorrect, because the part cannot be equal to the whole. So we cannot never be equal to Krishna. Knowledge that one is one in quality. This is a wonderful example that Srila Prabhupada often gives. Yeah. And because he often gives the example, just like we have let me just explain more. We have the qualities of God but not in the same quantity. Let me get this right. We have the same, knowledge that one is in quality yet different in quantity. Yes, so we have the same qualities, that's it, the same qualities of Krishna, but no way do we have the same quantity of those qualities. Just like a drop of water has all the qualities of the ocean, but in a very minute way. It doesn't have the qualities, it doesn't have the same quantity. Did that help? So I got a bit confused in the explanation. Knowledge that one is one in quality.
So,
yeah.
So one in one, basically it means that any person is equal to Krishna in quality, but not in quantity.
Yeah, so in other words, the qualities that we exhibit here have their source in Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have their source in Krishna, at least the sattvika qualities. Yeah. The qualities which are tamasic is a result of turning one's back on Krishna. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, so we can, that's clear. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Definitely is correct. Transcendence on leading one to become full in himself. So devotees kind of, they're neither, they neither hate, they're not antagonistic towards the world. They actually understand the world and they're aware of the dangers of it, but they're not, how can I say, they're not unduly critical of the world from one perspective. They don't hate because they're just detached. So for them, it's not an issue. They're just fully absorbed in Krishna's service. Yeah. So they're not within the world of duality, hate and love and hate, etc. They're just engaged in Krishna's service. Yeah, there is no duality in his mind because whatever he does for Krishna. Yeah, good or bad, heat or cold, etc., etc. Okay. Yes, read the verse again. So one who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, almighty armed Arjuna. Okay. Any other question or comments here? I'll just read a little bit here from Bodhijam Prabhu. Such a worker is called Nitya Sannyasi. A sannyasi is meant to achieve liberation, and one who renounces the fruits of his activities will attain it. Such detachment, feeling neither hatred nor desire for the fruits of work, is the mark of a true sannyasi. Yeah, so Arjuna should fight, not being attached. Yeah, do it for Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. All right, let's have a look at text 4. Okay. Well, anyone like to read this? Probably we'll just cover this one for today. Okay, I'm gonna jump in and read. Let someone read.
Mata wanted to read.
Go ahead. Yes, please. Quick. Time's ticking away. Okay, I can't hear anything.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Please.
Can I read? Okay.
Before the clock strikes 7.
Okay. Text for Sankhya Yoga Bhuta Bala Pabраданti na Panditaha Ekamapi Asthita Samyak Upayora Vindate Phalam. Text for translation purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki. Only the ignorant speak of devotional service, karma yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the result of both. But the aim of the analytical study of the material world is to find the soul of existence. The soul of the material world is Vishnu, or the super soul. Devotional service to the Lord entails service to the super soul. One process is to find the root of the tree, and the other is to water the root. The real student of Sankhya philosophy finds the root of the material world, Vishnu, and then in perfect knowledge, engage himself in the service of the Lord. Therefore, in essence, there is no difference between the two, because the aim of both is Vishnu. Those who do not know the ultimate end say that the purposes of Sankhya and the Karma Yoga are not the same, but one who is learned knows the unifying aim is in this different process.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All right. Any quick question or comments here? So should one, what's describing how renunciation, how are work and renunciation the same? Yeah. So again, it's not two different paths. Oh, my battery's running out. They're not two different paths with separate goals, but it's the same path. It's the same path because the goal is ultimately Krishna. Yeah. But as Krishna's already explained, of the two, to work in devotion is considered better suitable. But both paths, the path of Sankhya is a path of renunciation and to study the world. But then one will come to the point of Krishna consciousness if one has suitable guidance. All right. Any question here, final question here? We just hit 7. We can continue tomorrow. If you have any particular questions here about this, please note them down and we can continue the discussion tomorrow. Okay, we did very well today, I think. Sometimes it's good to spend one time on one verse and purple. It's good, but at the same time, it can also be good as well to cover a few verses so we get into the flow of the chapter. Okay. Right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope it was of some interest and it's picked your spirits up reading Bhagavad Gita together. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. See you tomorrow. Same time. Same book. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Krishna
you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Hare. Hare Ram. Hare Ram. Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.